made you pick up this niche, helping women? What is your story behind it?
My mother. So I grew up with a single mother, and after my father left, always be the support that my mother didn't have. Very strong role model in terms of my mother and my sister. But this is why I want to help support and guide women, because I saw how women are expected to do it all, often without support.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to Podcast with Dimpy, where we dive into real conversation, fresh perspective, and insights that matter. And today we have got Daryl with us, who has been helping women thrive in male-dominated industries. We are going to have some exciting conversation, uncover some key insights, and share the strategies that has helped his clients succeed and shine. Welcome, Daryl, to this show.
Thank you for having me, Dimpy. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. So, Daryl, can you please tell our audience, a little bit about us, a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Daryl. I'm originally from the UK. I currently live in Estonia. And yeah, my background is in coaching and consulting. I've been doing that for the past 15 years, more recently focusing on working with women in male-dominated spaces to help them lead with success and thrive in those environments, which are sometimes challenging. A little bit about me personally in my spare time, as we were just discussing before, I like to keep fit, so running and cycling. Heading to the gym. I've been getting into some Estonian folk dancing because I live in Estonia. So that's interesting. We hopefully are going to get into this big, what would you call it? An event they hold every 5 years.
Oh my God.
So that's been good. And then I enjoy doing a bit of DJing as well. So.
Oh my God, so many hobbies you are into, Daryl. It is crazy. Daryl, you told me that you are into helping women thrive and in this male-dominated industry. So, but what made you pick up this niche, helping women? What is your story behind it?
So it's actually quite a recent shift for me. So I started my independent business about a year and a half ago. I thought I knew what I was doing when starting a business. I didn't.
Everyone knows this. Yeah.
I thought it was going to be easier than it was. I mean, how naive could I be?
Yeah.
So at the back end of last year, I got some business mentoring. And through this mentoring process, I re-looked at my why. So why am I doing what I'm doing? I've always been a coach. I think it's just who I am as a person. But I connected to my why, and that really came back to my mother. So I grew up with a single mother, and after my father left for another woman, so she had to go back to work after 15 years of marriage. And I really saw how she struggled. She had to raise my sister and myself. She had to go back to work. She had to juggle all of these different things. And I really then realized, this is why I've always had an affinity to support women, or want to guide and help and support, almost be the support that my mother didn't have. I mean, I also had a very strong role model in terms of my mother and my sister, but that was it really, just connecting, okay, this is why I want to help support and guide women, because I saw how women are expected to do it all, often without support. And that's really what led me to focusing on supporting and guiding women.
That's amazing. It shows that your empathy is really high. And I think in today's world, empathy, I really value empathy, people who are empathetic, and leaders also. In leadership, this plays such an important role. Don't you think so?
I mean, super important. This is why I'm a fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if you
come across
Gary V.
Yeah.
I love him and his content, and Claude Silver, who is his chief art officer. It's all about empathy. It's all about kindness. Yeah. And I think this is where the world is going. We're shifting from that old dynamic of command and control to this kindness and empathy model.
Yeah.
And I say model, just a way of being, because I think it's just what's needed.
Yeah. So, Daryl, what are the most common challenges which women, clients come to you face? So, what are usually the challenges which they come to you?
Well, I would say that what people come with is not necessarily the problem that we end up dealing with and figuring out. But I mean, a big one that I guess a lot of women face in male-dominated industries is feeling that they have to constantly prove their worth. There's this notion that I have to work twice as hard just to be taken on the same level of men.
Okay.
And you can term it as imposter syndrome if you want to. I have a figure somewhere. Hold on, let me just find it. So research from KPMG found that 75% of women executives experience imposter syndrome at some point in their careers. So two things with that. One, it's normal for high achieving women, but two, it's really important to then address this level of self-doubt and this nagging and this questioning yourself. This is what I help women with: find their confidence, their clarity, and communication skills in order so that they're being who they want to be and recognized for who they want to be in the workplace.
So Daryl, means I have also been into corporate world, and even I had this, feeling where I felt that male around me are more confident, and I felt speaking up in meetings, it becomes a little difficult. So what do you think? What advice will you like to give to people when they are speaking up in some meetings? What should be the thought process, when you're saying that you help in the confidence, but where me, not now, I will not say right now I don't have the confidence in speaking up, in mail, but I if I recall my past, I feel that yes, there was times where I was unable to speak up confidently in front of all the men surrounding in the meetings and like that. So what do you say about that?
Well, it's quite a nuanced question, I think, and it depends on everybody's circumstances individually. But one of the things that I would recommend is whenever there's a meeting, speak up as quickly as you can, as soon as possible. So if you get your voice into the room in the first few minutes, it then makes it much easier to speak up later on. For example, I was talking to a client before, and she was saying that she wanted to say something and then didn't. And then for the rest of the meeting, she didn't say anything.
Oh,
So it gets much harder as time goes on to say something if you haven't said something in the first few minutes. So this is different. Obviously, when I run meetings or facilitate meetings, I want to hear from everybody in the meeting. And so what I would suggest is as soon as a meeting starts, just to say hello or say nice to meet you or say something that gets your voice into the room immediately. Something else that you can do as well is to have, although it shouldn't be this way, have a male ally. So know that going into the meeting, my friend Steve, or whoever it happens to be, Bob, Simon, Sanjay, is there and will then be able to say, "Oh, Dimpy, what do you think?" So just by having somebody there with you who's supporting you can also help you to build that confidence in the longer term.
Yeah, I think men ally is a great idea, because everybody have at least one friend, a male, who are there to support us, which is great. I feel that, I think if we are doing great. I in fact like to give credits to even male in our, around us. If we are, we have been in a place where we were not very, very independent, but now we are progressing. And I think it is because of the support of men also around us. So yeah, I think it's a great tip which you gave us, which is having a men ally, in your team to get that start, to have that boost of confidence.
I mean, that's one tip. I still want to go back to what you can do without men is just make sure you are speaking up, at least getting your voice in the room. And the thing is, you can practice in lower stakes environments. So if it's just a team meeting, you can just make sure that you're speaking up or promoting your idea. Because if it's a more high stakes meeting, if you haven't done it in the smaller settings to build that confidence and the ability and the consistency of doing it, it then becomes much harder in those high stake meetings.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, because I think it starts with how you're confident with one to one. How much you're confident with one to one, as many as one to one. Then you can easily shift to one to many, maybe, or two, three, and then five or 10, or the number can increase. Yeah. So Daryl, there was one more. In leadership, this is often spoken about authenticity. What do you think? What role authenticity plays in, and how do you think women leaders are authentic, and if not, how they can showcase that authenticity in leadership?
I mean, if I go to one of your questions, do I think women are authentic? Yes and no. There are authentic women and authentic men and inauthentic women and inauthentic. I think it depends on the individual. And for me, this is the key, really. If you're being authentic, you're being true to yourself, because people can tell when you're being inauthentic. I mean, we've all had managers who've said one thing to our face and then maybe something different behind our back, or they've behaved in a way that's not congruent. And so authenticity, I think, is incredibly important. I think your other point was around authority. Was it authority?
Yeah,
No.
if they are not authentic, I was asking that how they can be authentic. Is authenticity important? My question was, is authentic, because I feel in corporate world we also need to be politically correct. Sometimes we need to be politically correct, but they are not the authentic version. I wanted to understand your perspective around this.
Okay, well, I think, well, with many of my answers, it's probably going to be it depends, because it really is contextual. It depends on the organization, it depends on the relationships that you have. My invitation would be to always be as authentic as you can be, because if you're not, there's a challenge around trust. So if people know that you're inauthentic, they're not really going to trust you, and that can have challenges not only for your team, but then in terms of your growth path. Yes, I understand there's a political game to play in certain organizations, but I would say that's highly dependent. But my suggestion would be yourself, because it's going to be much easier to be yourself than trying to play a role in the organization.
So let me go a little deeper on this point, Daryl. So a person, it's told actually fake your confidence. Okay. So when I'm talking about authenticity, where I mean that a woman is not feeling that confident, but we need to display that confidence. So
Got it.
now it may not sound very authentic. It is not very authentic. But how do we say this? They are not authentic, but then also they're portraying that okay, they are the leaders. They are confident. So what's to say on that?
So this notion of fake it till you make it type of.
Yeah. You got it.
Okay, so not authenticity in terms of what you're saying and how you're behaving, but sometimes this question of acting confident even if you're not. Well, I think for me, I would tie it to this notion of the fact that people think they have to be happy and then they smile. Whereas actually science shows us that if you smile, then you end up being happy. And I feel to a degree it's the same way with confidence. Obviously, it's inner work. We need to build that level of grounding and ability to say, okay, I believe in myself, which allows us to portray a certain external set of behaviors. However, I think there is this middle ground where we're still building that, and we might need to walk into an environment and present a certain way of being. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's still us, but maybe we're at step one and we're sort of expressing ourselves at step 2 or 3. We're on the path, we're on the way to getting to where we want to, but we're not quite there yet. But it's just how we step into that version of ourselves. So it's not a different version of ourselves. It's just a future version of ourselves where we want to be. And I think that's absolutely fine.
So do you promote we should be faking the confidence until we are confident? What do you say? Because there are two type of people, there are type of people who promote this concept of fake it until you make it. And there are people who say...
Yeah, again, I'm going to go back with it. It depends. So I sometimes work with clients on a visualization. So visualizing a future, more confident version of yourself. So it's still you, but it's just a more confident version of you, and you're stepping into that future version. I guess what I don't like about the fake it till you make it is that there's a disconnect between who I am and how I am now and this other version of myself. It's almost pretending to be somebody else. And what I'm trying to allude to is there's a connection. It's still me, but just, as I said, me 2.0 or whatever it happens to be. So yes and no. I don't like the fake it, because that's almost as though you're pretending to be something different.
Maybe the word is incorrect. Do you think the word is incorrect? Because I'm feeling, when I'm having a conversation with you, I feel that maybe the word fake it is wrong,
Maybe.
Visualization is a better word, maybe,
Yeah, listen, taking the words that you said, all I'm trying to say is that for me, it's not about faking it. It's just about picturing yourself in that space where you might not feel that you are yet, but you can grow into. Maybe
Yeah.
that's a better way of putting it.
Yeah, nice, nice. So you spoke about visualization here, Daryl. Is there, what I understand about visualization is closing your eyes and imagining. Can you, give the audience who is listening to this podcast a step-by-step guide on how they can visualize to be the confident self? Is there some steps to it? Because what I understand is closing your eyes and then imagining. Sometimes it becomes not easy to imagine the, future self. So is there
Yeah,
some guide to
that's
it?
yeah, that's it. Sometimes it's a 5 or 10 minute process, but again, I guide somebody through it. Just ask them to close their eyes, pay attention to the sensations in their body, how you're sitting, how you're feeling, and then yeah, the imagery that I usually use is okay. Just imagine a screen in front of you, a big cinema screen, and on that screen you see a future version of yourself. And this is, looking more confident, standing more confidently. And then just to get you to imagine and picture, okay, well, how are you sounding? How are you feeling? What are you hearing? How are you, what are you dressed as? And then I'd get you to imagine yourself floating into that future version of yourself, almost putting on that future version of yourself like a suit
Oh,
and thinking, okay, how does that feel? And usually you see a change in people's physiology. They sit up straighter, their shoulders go back. And again, this is all with eyes closed. And all you're doing is listening to my voice. And again, we just repeat that over and over again. And then there is generally not only a physiological difference, but then a mindset shift into, okay, great. So now we can anchor this. And anytime I want to feel confident, I can just tap into that again. So yeah, as an exercise, you're absolutely right, closing your eyes, but visualization is
no,
incredibly
the
powerful.
way you share also, I think that was powerful. Sometimes we are not able to, like, I feel that, do you have any course regarding this, the process? Because when you were saying, all these things, that how we're supposed to imagine, I think that itself was hitting me. So I think this is a great point. Means because we understand that we are supposed to visualize. I also know sometimes that when I'm stuck, I feel that okay, I'm supposed to visualize my future self, but I'm not able to get into that feeling, into that zone. Um,
Yeah.
of doing so. So I think you shared a great point of how we can do so. Do you have any course or something to it, or how do
Not on
people
the
reach
not
out
on
to
visual.
you on
Not on the
this?
visualization. That's just something I tend to do one to one with clients. I mean, you can
Okay.
go online. There's plenty of things on YouTube where you could just put in, visualization for confidence, and you'd be able to do it. I would say it's, of course, we can do it ourselves, but it's way easier when you have somebody guiding you
Yeah.
through it. Because I trained as a hypnotherapist as well, and despite the fact that yes, obviously I can do it myself,
Yeah.
it's way better when you have somebody else guiding you through it
I totally
because
agree
then you
on
can
this
just
point.
relax.
Yeah, I totally agree on this point. So, Devil, there is one more point in leadership which usually women face, and in fact, especially people who are senior executive roles, which is burnout. They feel
Mm.
burned out, and especially women when they're managing, their personal life, professional life. So what advice will you like to give them of how they are not supposed to be, how they can tackle this burnout issue?
I go back to my standard answer of it depends. It's very contextual.
Yeah.
This is a typical coach's answer because it's very much dependent upon the individual. But I mean, yeah, the data
But
is
if I ask you, now when you're telling me depends. Now, if I wanted to ask you in behalf of a women who is managing, a personal life, a lot of things are going on in their personal life, and she's also in a senior position.
yeah.
So what will you like to guide her on this scenario of how she is, how she's supposed to handle all these things, how she's able to prevent the burnout um,
Okay, so
in
this
such situation?
so appreciate the question. There's a couple of things. So there's no supposed to or should. It just depends on okay, well, what outcomes do you want to have? A lot of what comes down to burnout. So I had burnout 20, no, not 20 years ago. I can't remember how old I am now, but a long 15, about 15 years ago when I was teaching. And the thing is, you don't realize when you're in it because it's just this incremental increase of little things without then having a chance to rest and recuperate. So one of the biggest things is boundaries. So understanding where you are now, looking at where you want to be, and making sure you're putting boundaries in place in order to be able to achieve that. And that is boundaries with loved ones, boundaries with colleagues, boundaries with yourself as well. And these are the three core components. And then it's not only setting those boundaries, it's communicating them, which is the important part, which people tend to miss. And then the bigger part that people tend to fall down on most is the consistency. So you might have set a boundary, said, okay, this is my boundary. Like, I don't know, I'm not emailing after 7 o'clock or whatever, or 5 o'clock or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But then something urgent comes in and you respond to it. Okay, one off is okay. But then, people see that you respond and then keep doing it. And then that boundary is completely gone and you're back in the same situation again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, boundaries, communicating your boundaries and being consistent with your boundaries.
Yeah, that's an awesome point. I think many people struggle, putting that boundaries. They struggle saying no. They struggle because they feel the ownership that they are responsible of everything, and they have difficult in, saying no. Or what I feel as a woman, I feel that we also struggle that we feel that everything needs to be done now. I don't know, men suffer this or not. Maybe, of course, I do. I feel men also who are very responsible, they also might be facing similar problems in this area.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say on this part?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I have a question for you if I can. So what does
Yes.
saying no mean for you?
Saying no? So for me, like saying no, as you were telling, if I get some extra work, or I should be able to say no in the right way that, that I will be able to do, of course, but maybe tomorrow. So I think communicating even no, how you are saying no is also important. That no, like maybe like, a partner is saying me, I'm just giving an example, just, thought where a partner wants a travel plan, but there is so much work pressure going on. So I have to say somebody no. But how do I say no? That is also critical, don't you think? So that nobody gets offended. But I have to say no to somebody.
That's then interesting. So saying no, absolutely, the way you say no, but it was interesting that you put on after that so nobody gets offended. So that's a mindset thing, thinking that if I say no, somebody's going to get offended. So again, actually, to your point, it's about how do we disconnect those two things? How do we disconnect the fact that saying no means somebody's going to offend it? Because it doesn't mean that at all. And then also, how do we disconnect saying no from feeling guilty? I mean, as a recovering people pleaser, it was very, very hard for me to learn to say no and put boundaries in place and be okay saying no without thinking, oh my goodness, I've upset them. They're going to hate me. They're not going to talk to me or whatever it happens to be. That was always going on in my head. And so this is definitely prevalent for many women that I work with.
Yeah. So how do we deal? You told that, yes, when you put out the right point, guilty. You do feel guilty, So we understand. So I think women do understand that we're supposed to have boundary, but somewhere they're not able to do it.
Well, the not able, I think, comes down to the points that we were talking about feeling guilty. So the feeling of guilt is very strong. If I say no, I'm a bad mother. If I say no, I'm a bad wife. If I say no, I'm going to be looked at as weak in the workplace or less dedicated than my male counterpart.
Yes.
So there's all of these things that come along with it, which I completely understand. And then what we look at is, okay, well, how can I put boundaries in place? As you said, communicating in the right way that means that, okay, this is fine. And then we do start with low stakes boundaries as well, because it does take time to practice and again, feel comfortable doing that. And then we can build up to the bigger ones.
Yes, awesome. So, Daryl, I'd like to go to the next point. What advice will you like to give, person in leadership who might be doing very good, okay, who is doing very, very good, but suddenly because of some reason she's feeling, she's doubting herself, she's doubting her capabilities. And I think, especially people sometimes, they get into senior roles. They are in a good position now. People are looking up to them, but their
Mm.
inner talk becomes so negative that they start doubting themselves. So, what advice, what steps they can take themselves to help themselves or to get them to the right track so that they can shine and succeed?
Few things, I think. One, recognize that you're in that role for a reason, that because you've achieved a certain status or because people see value in you. So
Yeah.
recognize that. The second thing I would say is keep a track of your accomplishments. People
Oh, I think
often
that's a great
forget.
point. Yeah.
People often forget. I was having this conversation with a potential client. We might do some
Yeah.
work together. And I just asked her, I said, okay, so you mentioned this project. Tell me about it. And she was telling me about it, and I could see her light up. And then she realized, oh my goodness, I haven't actually taken the time to appreciate the fact that this was something really important for me and I did
Yeah.
really well. Because we're always looking at the next thing, either something isn't good enough or we need to try again, or this whole hamster wheel keeps going around. So
Yeah.
just taking a moment to take a step back and think, oh, wow, okay, I was over there and this is how far I've come, or this is all the cool stuff I've achieved. This is very important.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think I can say this point for myself also, because we often forget, how far we have come and how much we have done. We forget it. And I think writing down definitely helps. Do you think, Daryl, being grateful helps in any way in being confident? Do you think there is any connection to being grateful and being confident?
I mean, from personal experience, I think so. This is just, it's shifted my mindset around certain things as well. I mean, I won't go into it too much, but yeah, that and meditation have really helped in terms of just my sense of groundedness, my ability to be less reactive and more responsive.
Mm.
So oftentimes in the work environment, what I see is that, and just in life in general, something happens and we react to it because we've had years of programming that have led us to behave this way.
Mm.
But yes, gratitude, mindfulness, meditation means that there's a gap between something happening and then my ability to respond. And I think this also helps when it comes to self-doubt and questioning ourselves.
Yeah, yeah, I agree on this thing. Gratitude and meditation. I agree. It can help in. Also, I think it also helps in inner talk. How we talk to ourselves. Do
Oh,
you
this
think?
is such a good point.
Yeah.
I used to talk very, very unkindly to myself,
Yeah.
and I mean, just
Yeah, I think most people do.
but it's interesting when you catch yourself doing it. So the example I tend to give when I talk about this is, I remember once I would drop I dropped a bowl in the
Mm.
kitchen and it smashed, and I said, "Oh, you idiot!" And I was like, "Okay, where does that come from? This immediate negative labeling of myself." And now, a couple of weeks ago, I dropped a glass, and there was none of that. It was just, okay, cool, I'll clear it up. And it's such a distinct difference. Just the noise in my head is not there the way it used to be. And it plays such an important part in terms of our self-confidence, our
Yeah.
self-image, our self-doubt, how and the language we use to talk to ourselves in these really small moments that we don't think are important,
Mm.
but they all add up. And I don't know if you can see it in the camera, but I have post-it notes around my apartment, which just say nice things to myself. I deserve to be happy. I think I've got one that says I'm smart, sexy, happy, and healthy. And it's
And
just
you are.
remind.
So that's what. So
As a,
I think the
that
affirmation
wasn't
is
that wasn't
working.
a that wasn't a plug for a compliment,
Yeah.
but again, it's just it's helping me to reprogram how I speak to myself and about myself. And I think this is it's very important too. But
That is
great point.
amazing. So there is, affirmation, positive affirmation. What I understand from these
Hmm.
things, having the positive self talk. There is gratitude, which can help in helping a person become more confident, respond rather than react. Then there is meditation, also which you included. And what else? So what will you like? What's the last things which you like to say to our audience, especially women who are into great roles, who want to thrive in this male-dominated industry. So, what will be the last few words which you like to say, and how they can reach out to you? Please go ahead on saying this.
Sure, thank you. So, last few words. According to the data, women make better leaders than men. So, just embrace that. What I would say as well is embrace leadership as a woman. Don't try to lead like a man. So, women have a range of skills that make women way better leaders. So, empathy, we talked about, kindness, just collaboration, communication skills. These are all core strengths generally for women, and we should lean into those more than, this image of a male leader.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. In terms of reaching out, best place is LinkedIn. I can send you contact details. But yeah, if
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
any
I think
questions,
we'll
thoughts.
put the LinkedIn link below this video also. And he puts up, and I can say that Daryl puts up great content. Follow Daryl. His videos are really, it will help you make self-aware. It will help you make by watching the video itself. You will feel confident. So, is there some you have a free session, 15 minutes or something like that? Do you have
Yeah,
anything?
I can again. I'll give you a link which has some free resources on there.
Okay.
I'll give a special discount code for my leadership course as well
Okay.
for your
Great.
subscribers. And of course, yeah, if people want to hop on
So,
a
people, you have got some great discounts coming up from Daryl. So, check the link below and check what he has to offer, because he's amazing at his work. He has passion, he has drive to help women, each one of you, to do great in your career. And he's definitely your man. Check out his content and check out the link below. So, yeah, thank you, Daryl, so much for interacting with us in this podcast. It was great. I love the conversation.
Thank you so much for your time. I
Yeah.
appreciate it. It was good fun.